Raidou begins his first year of high school. Due to possessing a naturally unfriendly face, he struggles to fit in and tries to become friends with Reina Aharen, who sits beside him in class. He is baffled when she either ignores him or speaks too softly to be heard. Aharen becomes extremely close to Raidou after he retrieves her fallen eraser. Raidou asks for an explanation of her behavior, so she reveals she has a warped sense of distance that makes it difficult to judge when she is invading someone's personal space. When she stands too close she seems clingy, and when she stands too far away she appears antisocial, so she struggles to make friends. Initially Raidou struggles to hear when she speaks but eventually finds that he is able to hear her as practice makes him more sensitive to small noises. At an arcade, Aharen's warped sense of distance makes her an expert on claw machines, and wins many toys from the game, giving most to Raidou, but accepting one from him. As time passes, Aharen keeps getting increasingly close to Raidou, even falling asleep on his lap after being exhausted from making him lunch that morning. At the same time, they are menacingly observed from afar by a girl. Aharen has something in her eye, so Raidou administers eye drops. Aharen claims having him close to her face is embarrassing, confusing Raidou as she often comes closer on her own. Raidou senses someone spying on him, so Aharen makes him feel better with a hug. The spy is Aharen's childhood friend Mitsuki Oshiro, a tall, nervous girl who cries a lot and doesn't trust boys. She declares she will protect Aharen, but from a distance to avoid Raidou. Aharen tries to communicate to Raidou his zipper is exposing his underwear, but ultimately has to spend the day blocking his lower body from view when he does not understand her. Oshiro notices Aharen hasn't gone home and, suspecting she doesn't have an umbrella, tries to covertly give Aharen her own but is caught. She and Aharen share an umbrella, but due to their height difference Aharen still gets wet. She thanks Oshiro anyway, pointing out she knows Oshiro follows her and Raidou home every day but isn't good at hiding. The next day, Oshiro watches Aharen from even further away using binoculars. Raidou challenges Aharen to a game of reversey. He realizes with her unusual vision Aharen is actually a skilled reversey player, ultimately calling a draw after the bell rings. Aharen comes to school with bedhead. Oshiro's family owns a hair salon so she is able to give Aharen a haircut. She also cuts Raidou's hair despite being tempted to shave him bald. Aharen is suffering from dry lips so Raidou attempts to apply lip balm but messes up. Oshiro steps in again with makeup and a skin massage. Aharen later reveals she is stressed due to the growth spurt of the boy who sits in front of her, so now she can't see the chalkboard from her desk. Raidou attempts several increasingly ludicrous methods of helping her but eventually just moves her desk closer to his own. A seat change is announced, meaning Raidou and Aharen might no longer be sat next to each other. Deciding to do something nice for her, Raidou tries to help her win at baseball, then cooks for her, in spite of his terrible food. He also helps her record them dancing together, believing she wants to be a YouTube idol, though it turns out it was a class project and the video is a YouTube failure. On seat moving day, Aharen hugs Raidou as a goodbye, only to remain in the same place, as by chance they are reassigned their original seats beside each other. Teacher Ms. Toberu is obsessed with classical romance. She notices Aharen and Raidou and determines they are tightly emotionally linked, and is so overcome by passion watching them that she faints. Aharen begins acting strangely, causing Raidou to think she is demon-possessed, but it turns out she was choking on food. Realizing he needs to understand her better, he tries to teach her facial expressions but fails. Aharen discovers Japanese hip-hop and quickly masters rapping everything she says. Raidou also learns to rap and they begin communicating perfectly, until their microphones are confiscated, as they are banned in school. Raidou's sister gives him a fidget spinner, which Aharen becomes obsessed with and teaches herself to perform tricks. Watching them, Ms. Toberu faints again. In the park, Raidou learns Aharen's spinner tricks have made her popular with children. One little girl named Futaba is jealous that her friend Akun admires Aharen and challenges her to reversey. Aharen lets Futaba win, but despite her victory, Akun is mean to her, so Aharen makes him apologize. Aharen is exhausted by the children and cannot walk, so she summons her giant dog, Nui, whom she rides back home. Aharen becomes obsessed with the game Hokuko. Raidou has the strongest creature in the game but is still defeated by Aharen using superior strategy. At an arcade, Aharen sees Futaba attempting to with the stuffed toy of Raidou's creature for a kun, so as to achieve his affection. She fails multiple times while Aharen wins several toys. Insisting on doing it herself, Futaba wins a toy on her last attempt. She later realizes Aharen, by winning all the other toys, had been maneuvering the toy into a better position for Futaba to get it. Aharen gives her toys to Raidou, who adds them to his collection. Raidou gains a lot of weight and Aharen worries it is because she gives him her lunch every day. Meanwhile, Raidou mistakenly thinks Aharen is worried about her own weight, and while researching proper diet and exercise routines, he ends up losing the weight overnight. Exams are soon and Raidou has not been studying, so he asks for Aharen's help. They study together, determined in finishing in the top 100 in the rankings. After studying, Aharen hugs Raidou, glad that she finally did something to help him for once. Thanks to their sessions, Raidou manages to place in the top 100 in the exam. Aharen cannot swim, and since Raidou is not a strong swimmer either, they ask Oshiro to teach them. After grasping the basics, they decide to race in the pool. Aharen wins after discovering that swimming underwater is easier, and that she can hold her breath for an extraordinary length of time. They also compete at table tennis, 10-pin bowling and basketball, though they are both so bad at sports each game ends in a draw. They finally compete on an arcade shooting game, which Aharen wins due to her warped sense for distance allowing her to score perfect headshots. Aharen excuses herself to go to the bathroom, but when she returns, she suddenly begins acting differently, and even has trouble winning toys on a crane game, requiring Raidou to win one for her. Her continued strange behavior leads Raidou to believe either she has sudden amnesia, or was replaced by a clone. The real Aharen suddenly appears, revealing the new Aharen is actually her little brother Ren, who bears a striking resemblance to her. Ren enjoyed playing a prank on Raidou but now returns home where it is revealed he enjoys dressing like a girl and often borrows Aharen's clothes. Aharen forgets her lunch and decides to shop at the school cafeteria. Aharen ends up crowd surfing over the mob of hungry students, only managing to buy one bun which Raidou trades for his own lunch. Aharen's dog Nui appears with her lunch which she trades for Raidou's despite him struggling with her massive portions. Aharen and Raidou play old maid and Raidou loses every game. After falling asleep in class, Aharen refuses to move to their next class. Raidou believes she is becoming a delinquent, though it turns out her legs went numb while sleeping. At the park, Futaba refuses to believe Aharen's massive lunch is for only one person and accuses her of trying to seduce a kun with food, though when she finds Aharen's cooking is superior to her own she asks Aharen for help making a bento. The next day Futaba accuses Aharen of poisoning the bento and making a kun ill, until Raidou points out she forgot to refrigerate it overnight, allowing it to spoil. With an art project due, Aharen somehow produces a life-size doll of herself that is so realistic it looks like her twin sister. She gives the doll to Raidou to add to his collection of toys she won for him, though it is so lifelike Raidou struggles to sleep with it staring at him. Ms. Miyuhira invites Toberu for lunch at the rooftop. However, they are soon joined by Raidou, Aharen, and Oshiro, and seeing Oshiro's desire to sit close to them, Toberu has trouble controlling herself. She struggles even further when Raidou and Aharen feed Oshiro and sit close to her. She finally collapses when she visualizes them as a family. That night, Toberu imagines improbable romantic scenarios between Raidou and Aharen to prepare, but faints again, with Miyuhira finding her unconscious. The next day, Ishikawa and Sato invite Aharen, Raidou, and Oshiro to the summer festival. They spread themselves by abilities to win the most prizes possible. After playing some games, Aharen and Raidou realize they've lost each other. Raidou is approached by Futaba, who mistakes him for her father. After he reunites her with her father, Futaba finally thanks Raidou, albeit inaudibly. Aharen appears beside Raidou, thanking him for finding her. They watch the fireworks, as Aharen reveals that it is the first time she sees them properly, as her short stature hindered her. Raidou decides to meet back with the group, and offers his hand to Aharen to take her there. She accepts it, blushing profusely. Raidou assumes a seductive, handsome appearance when he suffers from a fever. His reddened face flatters his friends, especially Aharen. Toberu has a relapse when she sees Raidou in this state. They all rush to his aid when he collapses. At home, Raidou's sister is uncharacteristically friendly with him. The next day, everything goes back to normal after Raidou recovers. At the market, Raidou meets with Aharen's cold younger sister, Eru, as she is shopping for their dinner. She explains Aharen's dependency on her, and how much she talks about him. They go to the arcade, where Raidou wins a special edition plushie after Eru failed to get it. She tells Raidou to hand over the food and plushie to Aharen himself. However, as he arrives, he declares it was all Eru's idea, and Aharen hugs her sister, thanking her for her help. While bathing with Ren, Eru discusses Aharen's closeness to Raidou, and they debate if they are dating. The next day, Raidou comes across Ren, and helps him shop at the supermarket. He guides Ren after he lost his wallet, as Ren asks him if Aharen is his girlfriend. Aharen and Nui then arrive with the wallet, and after Raidou calls Aharen by her first name, she becomes embarrassed. Ishikawa proposes to go camping, and all his friends agree. Miyuhira takes them all to the camping site, where Aharen realizes she forgot to pack the food. Upset, she apologizes to her friends, but Raidou gets authorized by the camp groundskeeper to pick food from the forest. As such, they all scatter around looking for things to eat. While spearfishing in a creek, Raidou is joined by Oshiro. She tells him that while she is jealous of the time he spends with Aharen, she has realized he is not a bad person. At night, Ishikawa proposes to go on an adventure. However, they ditch Aharen and Raidou, trying to get them together. While stargazing, Aharen attempts to confess to Raidou, but she is interrupted by an arriving Nui. Back in their tent, Aharen tells Oshiro that she wishes to confess to Raidou, and Oshiro surprisingly supports her. Aharen meets with Raidou outside, where she kisses him, but runs back to her tent embarrassed, leaving Raidou speechless. In school, Ishikawa and Sato wonder if they managed to connect. However, after seeing them act like usual, they conclude that things are the same. As she walks home with Toberu, Miyuhira notes that something feels different about them. Aharen has created a cafe out of snow, and invites Raidou inside. After classes, they discover that the cafe has collapsed, so they rebuild it. Afterwards, Raidou warms Aharen's hands with his own, embarrassing her. The next day, Raidou accompanies Aharen to the nurse office to help her stretch out. After finishing, Raidou ends up falling asleep. Aharen goes in for a kiss, but they are interrupted by the nurse. After school, Ishikawa and Sato continue studying Aharen for signs that she is dating Raidou. However, while Aharen sleeps and Raidou is away, Ishikawa and Sato flirt. The next day, Aharen meets up with Raidou at the mall, where she tells him her family will do a New Year's meal, and invites him to attend. After hanging out, they come across Futaba and Akun. Seeing Raidou so close to Aharen, Akun challenges him in the blade spinner tournament in the mall. While Raidou and Akun both lose, Aharen and Futaba emerge as champions in their divisions, earning Futaba Akun's admiration. After Futaba points out that Aharen and Raidou's activities resemble a date, Aharen gets embarrassed. Absent this whole time, it is revealed that Oshiro is undertaking swordsman training to challenge someone. A flashback shows that while Raidou was away, Oshiro asked Aharen if she and Raidou were dating, but Aharen denied it. Believing Raidou rejected Aharen, Oshiro began her training, wanting to make him pay. In the present, Raidou follows Oshiro's note and gets challenged to a duel in reverse. As they play, Oshiro remembers when she met Aharen back in middle school. She says that since he does not reciprocate Aharen's feelings, he will stop seeing her when she wins. Raidou then cuts her lead, and explains that in the campsite, Aharen was unable to confess, but he did tell her that he liked her. This stuns an arriving Aharen, who explains how happy she was when Raidou confessed. Oshiro apologizes, and Aharen finally tells Raidou that she likes him, and, alongside Ishikawa and Sato, they all embrace. Sometime later, Raidou discovers Aharen's secret lupinous garden, and they begin tending it together. Aharen then invites their friends, Miyuhira and Toberu, to a tea party, where they reflect on the approaching second year. Aharen says she is scared they might be separated, but Raidou assures he and their friends will be there for her, as they observe their bloomed lupinous garden while holding hands.